Comrades, welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. Although today, of course, here as you can see, we are not starting in KSP. I wanted to show you this, comrades. This is the timeline of space exploration, which is much more comprehensive than the timeline of the space race, which I have been using for inspiration thus far. So, I just wanted to show you there's basically two things that we can still do here that we skipped over or missed because they weren't on the other list. But really, most of these we have done. Of course, things like the Mars 1M I didn't do because we used another one. So there again, there are several versions of the same mission because this one again, it failed to reach the target, or another one had no data returned, but that's the Venera that we did. So obviously it's an act of interpretation and just playing around with inspiration. But the two that I wanted to highlight were the first photograph of Earth from orbit, although I don't think we need to do that because we already have a photograph. There was that episode where we used the camera to take a nice picture of Kerbal. The other one was this one, the first solar probe. This is one I think we can do today. So we're actually stepping back in time now a little bit again. You see, this is before the first Kerbal space flight. This one really, it was Pioneer 5. Actually, Pioneer 5 and Pioneer 6 look almost identical. This was the one that took the photograph of Earth, which you can see there, not very clear. So I guess we have a slight advantage there. But this is the one, so I've gone ahead and built this. This really just had the goal of investigating interplanetary space between the orbits of Earth and Venus. So this would of course be Kerbal and Eve for us. Now we have actually flown by Eve before, but let's launch this thing anyway. The real challenge is going to be using a Thor-Able rocket to actually reach escape velocity around Kerbal. I'm not sure. I'm going to play around with that, but I think we should be able to make it work. We can throw some various, scientific tools on the thing as well, but it was really just the sphere with the solar panels on the sides. So I guess that's it. I'll see you in the game now, comrades. So, comrades, welcome back. I just also wanted to show you I did one thing in between the end of the last episode and this one, and that is I went and retrieved the Antarctic base because I don't think that's going to work out for us. And it's always something we can explore further at a later point. To actually do that, I built a jet plane and flew Jebediah all the way there just for the sake of it, and then retrieved the whole thing as well as the plane. So we will now see that Jebediah has some extra ribbons here, which is only fair because he actually should have a lot more already. So let's see, does it actually reflect that? Jebediah Kerman. So he has an endurance. Now, I don't know where he got this. This is a bit strange to me. Might be an error. Awarded for more than 500 Kerbal days spent in a single mission. Now, that's clearly an error because you'll see time has not really passed. I think it's 1 day after our flyby of Duna. And I don't see where he was for 500 days on a single mission. But anyway. Then first Kerbal surface EVA, this was now with this polar expedition, first landing on Kerbal, that was just landing his airplane. First Kerbal orbit, so that one is right. So I'm glad that this Final Frontier system actually awards him for that because that is rightfully his. First South Pole lander, of course that was the plane, the Mach 3, the G-force, what would that be, 8, 7? Then splashdown, this was again in an earlier mission, so it's retroactive there again. And at least a single mission as a pilot. Now, it's funny though, because it doesn't show that he ever did a spacewalk or anything like that. But we'll know, of course, so I just wanted to show you that. I can also show you the plane, actually. Right, so here we are in, of course, the space plane hangar, where we rarely go. And I'll just show you this. This is Okay, the X-15 we're never talking about again. There's the K1, and it's a familiar sort of design. I based it off the, I think it's the Messerschmitt 262. Roughly, you know, again, just as an inspiration, a very early jet plane there. And 2 mods were used here, but this is parts that we already have now. This very small junior liquid-fueled fuselage, that was one of the airplane packs, and of course these little wheels as well, just, you know, for full disclosure. But that's again not a new one, we've already had these mods installed. But this actually flies really well, and I can show you that perhaps. Why not? Let's do that. It's a quick diversion before the Pioneer 5. So let's pick our pilot, and actually we're not going to pick Jebediah. Let's pick somebody who has never done anything, Nancy Kerman. And let's take her out for a quick flight around the space center here. Let's hope we don't kill her, please. But it shouldn't happen. So let's go. So we're on the runway and we're rolling already. I can just put a stop to that, although it's not really necessary. So there's Nancy Kerman, and she is ready to go. So you see we're actually pointing a bit down towards the ground at the front, but it's fine because of the large surface area of the wings. We actually have no problem taking off. So let's put it to full throttle, and actually we don't need to. We can even just go half throttle. Turn off the brakes, of course, and just fly around here, because it's not something we've ever really done. But now we've got this design as well if we ever need to do short expeditions on Kerbal, or even to the poles if we want to. So you'll see we'll take off around 40 meters per second, which I think is perfectly reasonable. Actually less than 40. Just switch off the, retract the gears and not go back into the ground, of course. And we can just fly around here. It's really just sort of something new, I guess. And there's Nancy really enjoying it. So I'm sure everyone here is holding their breath now that we don't crash this thing. Especially after what happened to Valentina. But yes, this is a fun aspect of the game which I really haven't touched upon in this series yet. Although I will say that building aircraft is definitely a step up from building the basic rockets. So let's punch this thing to maximum and just go fly across the grasslands here. Now why is the nose pitching down the whole time? That did not happen to Jebediah. There we go. At least now as soon as we get a bit more speed it seems to stabilize. Just a bit of a fly around here. We can actually look inside the capsule here. Just have a look around and see what it's like. Oh dear. Oh, good grief. So yes, this is, oh, no, up, down. Okay, maybe we shouldn't do that too much, or at least not so close to the ground. This thing can also pull some serious G's. That's where Jebediah got his 7 G's from. Just go C again, and I think let's throttle down a bit and just get back to the space center. Just for the sake of it. Now this thing can go, as you can see, for several hours there, depending on the throttle and the altitude and all of that, so we can actually go quite far. It's an interesting crater there. I can't say I've ever really explored that really. Oh well, it shows you the areas closest to the space center remain the least explored. So anyway, let's shut down the engine, put the gears out and hope for the best. On a wing and a prayer, as they say. We actually need to bleed off some speed here. It's a wild ride. Brakes. Uh-oh. Don't crash, don't crash. Oof, that was a bit too much of a hard knock. Okay, we're not gonna make the runway. Although there's no real reason we shouldn't be able to. These bounces are not really the best thing for our health, but anyway. Okay, we didn't kill her. That's one thing, I guess. So let us recover and continue with the main focus of the episode. Just a bit of fun there. And Nancy Kerman has a landing on Kerbal and a G-Force 3. So there we go. Right, comrades, this is the Thor-Able with the Pioneer 5. Now, 3,800 meters per second is not enough. That is a fact. So I think we're going to have to tweak this a little bit. Let's just have a look at where we can put fuel on. Even here, let's just make sure our thrust to weight ratio doesn't go down too much. That's still okay. Liquid fuel on its own is no good for us. And we should have quite a bit of fuel that we can still add here on the Able stage. So I'm not sure what we actually should aim for. Let's fill the whole thing up. Let's push this design to its maximum, 5,000 meters per second. So all that I've done here is I've added these small linear RCS ports to the Able stage, just so that we can actually control the thing. And also if we look at the actual Pioneer 5 itself, we can see here I used just one of these Staputnik cores, so of course that has no control there, so we won't be able to do anything. That's why I put another Octo probe core right into this upper stage section here, just again for pitch and yaw and roll and all of those things. So as for the actual craft, I just used these struts, of course, and placed these solar panels on with 2 antennas. Now here's the real issue. The actual Pioneer 5 did not have a dish antenna. It was omnidirectional, so it was very weak as well. And I'm just wondering if we'll be able to actually communicate with this thing. But I will consider it a success as soon as it gets out of the sphere of Kerbal. We can do the measurements of radiation and all of that between interplanetary space, between Kerbal and Eve, and then still achieve our mission objectives. So I think that's really it. We're going to see how far this goes. 35, so what would that be? 35,000 kilometers? I still get confused by this sometimes. The first one, 31. Now, I think, is that 3,000 kilometers? 15 and then 35,000. I'm not sure. Oh well, I guess we'll find out. I'm not going to put these big antennas on the thing. It's just not playing the part, you know. There's also no need to put a camera on because, as I said, we already photographed Kerbal from space. Let's just throw 1 or 2 scientific experiments on just to play the part. Just for the sake of it. We'll pretend this is picking up some cosmic rays, and this is also part of the experiments in terms of radiation. Just like that. So I know this doesn't look like the real thing now, but I always like to at least give the various crafts some sort of touch of science or semblance of science. Let's try it actually there. I'll just have to move it in a bit. Let's just move this out of the way. And just push it in there. Make it a bit less obvious. I have to say, comrades, this is the one game, if I was on a journey to Mars and I could only take one game with me, it would be Kerbal Space Program, because, especially with the mods, there's no way you can ever get tired of it. And very soon we're going to have that expansion making history, and of course that's what we've been doing since episode 1. So that is going to be a fascinating thing for me. Of course what I'm going to have to do is I'll have to copy this whole version or copy of the game to a separate area on my hard drive, because as soon as this thing gets updated, all of the mods will be absolutely broken. So, and I don't want that to happen, because I want our missions to continue. So anyway, I think that will do. We don't need a light here. And I think really that's it. It's a very basic craft. So I'll just save this again and fast forward the launch. Of course, the fairing now looks really oversized here. And this might throw off our ascent a little bit, because if this thing catches the air, it flips over like crazy. But anyway, I'll speed this up again for your sake, and then I will see you in orbit. What we're gonna do is, it of course depends on where we are right now. Actually, I wonder, I'm gonna take this onto the launch pad, then I'll meet you in the tracking center. Okay, so for this one, I think what we should aim for is to just do a straight up launch. I don't mean like just go straight upwards, but do a launch without bothering to go into an orbit. Of course, we will do that automatically anyway, but I want us to be in the right place to burn for the interplanetary injection. So let's just see, where do we need to aim for? Of course, we want to lower the orbit there, so halfway between Eve and Kerbal. So that means we have to have the space center be somewhere here. Or are we actually in a good place now? If we launch, we should reach orbit by that point there. Then we just keep burning. Okay, I'm gonna try it, comrades, so let's launch this thing. Comrades, we are almost in orbit, but we will just keep burning. One straight up burn to see if we can reach our target, which shouldn't be difficult. I mean, it's only a region of space between two planets. Let's just see. So, okay, now we are officially in orbit. Let's just keep burning on prograde and see what happens. We're roughly in the right place, so I think it will work out. You see, we just have to push it that way. Bit too late maybe, but I don't think that's going to be the end of it. Let's just see. Almost out of fuel, 22 seconds. Come on, 15 seconds. No, 10. You can do it, you can do it. Just get an escape. It's done. And we have done it. Oh man, that is again one of these things that just happens to work out. Now I'm not sure if the real Pioneer actually lowered the apoapsis as well on the other side. But that doesn't matter. This is eventually, of course, going to smash into Kerbal or into the moon or Minmus or get flung out into a totally different orbit. But until then, it will travel in between Kerbal and Eve and then let us know what it finds. You know, this is a more longer term study of solar radiation and that sort of thing, because thus far we've only done the various flybys, and then of course those still take hundreds of days, but this one should last even longer. So we hope, we'll see. Let's just actually separate now and extend the antennas, because that's really the key thing here. So, okay, maybe I did that a bit too soon, but it doesn't really matter. I also love how the thing has a slight spin to it, because I think this was spin stabilized anyway. We can extend the other one. And anyway, now it just slides off of the upper stage here, which is also now space debris. So let's just switch back to this because it has its own probe core. I just need to make sure this is classified as a piece of debris now. Rename vessel, and it is debris, so it will no longer show up in our tracking center. So there we go. I guess that will now let us know what it will let us know. But again, this is a very smooth launch and all of that. I was very pleased with this. And also our very first straight up launch from the ground to interplanetary space. No parking in orbit or anything like that. So unfortunately now speeding up will kill the rotation here, which I like, but that's fine. So let's follow this thing out and just see how long it will be able to communicate back with Kerbal. There it goes. Unfortunately not the best angle, I have to say, for the solar panels, but they still get coverage. Let's see. Still got a good signal here, 99%. I need to figure out this distance scale for the antennas once and for all. "95, 94, 93, and it is interplanetary. So now it will be able to start its mission really. And it still has an excellent signal, so I suppose this will still continue for a while. Of course, we are now slowing down in relation to Kerbal here. That's why our orbit is dropping. But that's fine. 80%. It's giving us all of the good data now. So I think with that we can actually wrap up this episode. I know it's a bit of a shorter one than normal, but in the next one I think we can attempt the docking between Gemini and the ATV. So that should be an exciting one. So yes, comrades, this very strange looking probe. I know it's difficult to get the double-sided solar panels and all that, but hey, you make do with what you've got. So this is another feather in our cap. So yes, comrades, I'll see you in the next episode, and I'm so much looking forward to this new expansion for KSP. So yes, I can't wait for it. Anyway, comrades, have a fantastic day.